everyone, I'm Lilah McDonald, your host for NZ Business Magazine's podcast, Sustainably Ever After. Proudly brought to you by the Milford Foundation, a charity investing in local communities to build a stronger Aotearoa New Zealand. I'll be exploring the incredible world of sustainability and entrepreneurship. On this podcast, I'll be talking to guests who are making waves in the world of sustainability. Those who have built businesses with a purpose, those striving to make their companies greener, and those leading the charge for social and environmental change. The Milford Foundation, supporting education, youth, and the environment to build a better tomorrow for all New Zealanders. Find out more at milfordfoundation.co.nz. The safety of umbrellas is something not many think about, but the pointy spokes do pose a risk of injury, especially to taller people like Greig Brebner, who discovered the danger while walking down on Rainy Street in London trying to dodge hundreds of umbrellas that had taken over the street. He was astounded how everyone simply accepted this dangerous product, and it was then that he decided there must be a better way. With determination and commitment to his idea, he embarked on his long, difficult journey of designing the solution. And despite the challenges and doubts of many, he stuck to his vision, creating one of the most iconic accessories today, the blunt umbrella.
What I did was try to put a lot of pressure on myself to make it happen. And I found the best way to do that was to talk to everyone and sort of put that expectation out into the world. Most people probably thought I was a bit crazy. And they thought, there's nothing wrong with umbrellas, why are you bothering doing anything?
Welcome to Sustainably Ever After. I'm your host, Lilah McDonald, and today I'll be talking to Greig Brebner, founder of Blunt Umbrellas, about how he took Blunt's design from his workbench to the world. Welcome, Greig. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Can you please tell me a little bit about your background growing up?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in the countryside, just outside of Auckland. And I think when you grow up in the country, it sort of shapes you a little bit creatively because you spend probably more time by yourself than you do with your friends because they live further away. So I spent a lot of time in my dad's workshop and just playing with my Lego, and I think that sort of shaped me from a creative point of view. Yeah.
So do you think growing up in the country gave you a passion for sustainability and caring about the environment, or did that come later?
I think that probably came later. Like back in the 80s when I grew up, it wasn't really on people's minds. For me, it was more about creating something different and special.
Right. Okay, so you moved to London in 1999. Why was that?
Really just to follow some friends and have a good time. Like I'd always had this agenda to sort of create my own special product. And I tried quite hard in New Zealand before that. And I kind of got to a point where it wasn't working and I got a bit frustrated. So I thought I'd just go overseas and clear my mind. And that's when the inspiration struck.
Okay, so it's kind of just to get inspiration. You didn't have a particular plan at that point.
No, I think when you go on your overseas adventure, you're just out to have fun and see the world and just broaden your horizons.
Yeah. Okay, so what led you to umbrellas then?
I was just arriving in London, and when I first got there, I didn't have a job, so I was just exploring the city. And London is really quite busy, and the footpaths are really narrow. And I found when I was walking around and it started to rain, everyone brought out their umbrellas, and it just took over the pavement, and it was crazy. I was having to sort of navigate through all the spikes, like you mentioned, on the umbrellas. And I thought, this is crazy that a product is allowed to exist like this. It's so dangerous, and yet everyone just accepts it. So that was my first sort of, I guess, look at umbrellas from a different point of view from what we see in New Zealand.
Yeah. So you realised it was a problem that needed a solution. And, I mean, where do you go from there? Were you working at the time?
I was working in the UK, yeah.
Okay.
I think the first thing for me, because I'd been on a bit of a journey before with products that didn't work, was just the realisation that you needed to have a really strong vision for what a success could look like for a product. So I spent quite a bit of time before I did anything just sort of imagining what it could look like if it was successful. And a big part of that was just wandering around London, sort of trying to picture these better umbrellas with people having a really good experience using them and just smiles on their faces, the emotion you get from using something that's better. And then just the whole journey, I was just trying to map out my life. I think when you go to a new country, you sort of reimagine yourself a bit. And I was 25 at that time. And that's sort of a point in your life where you're trying to plan your future. So I was just trying to really design my life as much as it was about this product.
Yeah. So then I guess you just decided to go for it and start designing. I mean, what was that process like?
It was really long and drawn out. And I spent 18 months actually getting nowhere. It was a real big lesson. What I did was, I guess I looked at umbrellas and thought, these umbrellas, the product is no good and I need to change every single thing about them. So I approached it from a radical point of view where I thought I had to make it a totally different product. And in doing that, I made my life really difficult. And I just went on this journey of failure, basically, where I'd come up with this really radical concept for a new type of umbrella. And I'd work on it and I'd do it in my flat in London, or I moved to Cambridge as well and did it there. And I just had really basic tools, and it took a long time to create a prototype. I got halfway through it and realized it wasn't going to work, and then sort of give up on it, throw it in the corner and forget about it for a week, and then it'd come back and bite me. So I was going on this sort of loopy cycle, and mentally it wasn't actually that good for me because I wasn't getting anywhere, but I was just so committed because I had this vision in my head of what it could be. So after about 18 months, I think I got given this book by James Dyson, Dyson vacuum cleaners.
Oh, yeah.
And it was all about his experience and his journey in doing his vacuum cleaner. And I realised that this thing, it takes ages to do something like that. Like it took him 10 years, I think, to get to market. Oh, wow. And that sort of gave me perspective. This journey is going to take a long time. So at that point, I guess I changed my mindset, thinking this isn't going to happen tomorrow, and just grew a bit of patience for the process. And that's when I kind of reset myself and thought, I've got to sort of look at the existing umbrella and work out what is good about it and keep those bits and just work on the bits that are broken, if that makes sense. And when I did that, that's when I started to get some traction. But yeah, that was like, it was like years. It took literally years. I think it took two or 3 years to find the first concept, which is what we call our radial tensioning system. So what I worked out on the umbrella is that good umbrellas only work really well when the fabric, the canopy of it, is pulled really tight. And the real cheap umbrellas are really floppy in the wind. So when the wind hits it, they jump around, and that's when they break and they fall inside out. So I thought if I could make an umbrella design that made that fabric really tight all over, it'd feel really, really solid. It'd feel much better, and it would be like a wing in the wind, and it'd be a much better experience and look better too, because tight fabric looks better than flappy, saggy fabric. So that was my sort of agenda, because the first thing was the points, right? I didn't want to have points on it. But that was really just the cosmetic thing. But when I got into the engineering side of it, that's when I really started to get some advancement. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you obviously found the points annoying and things like that, but I've never heard anybody talk about that before. So when you started to think about it and design it, did you talk to any other people to see if this would work, or were you just going for it?
I talked to everybody. What I did was try to put a lot of pressure on myself to make it happen. And I found the best way to do that was to talk to everyone and sort of put that expectation out into the world.
Okay.
And it was quite interesting, the feedback. Like most people probably thought I was a bit crazy. And they thought, there's nothing wrong with umbrellas. Why are you bothering doing anything? And then a few people really believed in it. They thought, yeah. And I think that's quite common when people go out and put themselves out there to do something new. Most people will be like, you're just wasting your time. It's like things are the way they are because they are. Yeah. And then some other people are like, yeah, go for it. Awesome. So there's two sides to the coin, yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know what blunt umbrellas look like, can you explain a bit about the design and how you fixed those pointy spokes?
Yeah, so our core technology really is at the edge of the umbrella. So it's trying to get rid of those points. So most umbrellas have sharp points and then like the straight line between the sharp points. And the blunt umbrella looks like something that is more curved. So the points are more of an outwards curve, and then we've got the curvy bits in between. So it kind of looks more like a bat wing, I guess. Yeah, they're quite distinctive once you get to know them. But behind all that is the engineering, which actually makes the canopy tighter. So by get rid of the points, we get rid of a thing called point loading. So when you load something at a point, there's lots of stress, and that's where it normally breaks. But when you can spread the load, it makes it a lot more stronger and durable. So not only were we making this safer, it was also more durable and, just longer lasting. So that's where all the durability and the sustainability came from, is just making a better, longer lasting product. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started designing it, was sustainability in mind, or as you kind of designed it and thought, oh, this is where it breaks so we can make it last long, was that kind of where it came from?
Yeah. Sustainability, I think at the time, even when I started doing this, it wasn't really a leading point. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was just like the best product should be good at everything. Okay. So that's kind of how it worked out, is just trying to make the best product for the consumer. Because ultimately, the best product is the one that lasts the longest. Yeah. Because, if people can own it for a lifetime, then they don't need to buy anything else. And that's the problem today, right? It's just everyone's buying new things every 5 minutes. So, yeah.
What inspires you as a creative?
I think it's doing something unique. Like, I don't want to work on something that's been done before. So I really like the idea of creating something that's unique and that a lot of people would want. And the idea of making one thing that can then be repeated millions of times and go out to the world and make a business around it, I think that's what excites me the most. Yeah, just doing something clever that has a function that people will love in their lives. Yeah.
So Blunt Umbrellas also promises to repair broken umbrellas. Do you know how many you've repaired so far?
Oh, that's a good question. Basically, our rule is at the moment is that we repair about 1% of the umbrellas that go out there, which is very low. And there's probably up to 2 million umbrellas out there from when we started.
Wow.
So if you take 1% of that, is it 20,000? Yes, there's quite a few. So every year we're repairing a few thousand. And but yeah, in the scheme of things, it's not a lot because most of the umbrellas go out there and do their job.
Yeah.
Just last. But over time, obviously, the older they get, the more attention they'll need as well.
Yeah. So what happens to the broken parts once they're repaired? Do they just go into landfill?
So within the umbrella, there's a whole lot of different parts. So we kind of treat different parts in different ways. So if you think of like the fabric on a canopy, that's sort of like the dress or the clothes you wear. That's quite different from the frame within the umbrella, which is more hardware. So the canopy we kind of see as more, not consumable, but the piece that won't last as long because it will wear out and it'll get dirty and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of recycling streams for that. So we give our old canopies to charities to make into ponchos.
Oh, wow.
And they can get recycled for mattress use and things like that. So there's definitely chains, and even in Japan they take polyester, which is what the material is, and they can actually recycle that and put it back into fabric again. So we've used that material for that reason. You can actually recycle it in a lot of different ways. But then within the frame, there's a whole lot of parts that aren't so recyclable. So we make sure that they're really repairable so that we can keep those parts going. But there's always going to be a little bit of waste, but mostly we keep it. We just stockpile it because it's so compact. Umbrella parts are actually very small. So we basically keep it so that we can keep an idea of how much that we have. And we've even used like the fiberglass, so the sticks that are in the frame, we've actually given them to artists to do like installations and things like that.
That's awesome.
So there's lots of creative ways you can reuse the materials so they stay alive in the world.
Yeah.
But really it's about just working on the things that, I guess the low-hanging fruit, like the canopies are the main bit that will wear out first. So if we can put most of our energy into that and making sure that part is recycled the right way, then we're doing a good job.
Why do you think being able to repair something is so important?
Well, I think if it's designed right from day one, it's actually got an intention from the start to have a long life. And if it's something fails, like often in a product, one thing, like one component will fail. So say 1% of that product has failed and the whole thing gets chucked in the bin, whereas the 99% of it is still good.
Yeah.
So it's just such a waste. So if the product is designed right from day one, then it deserves the right to have its life. So it's like your body, right? If something goes wrong with it, you go to the hospital or you go to the doctor and get fixed. You don't throw yourself out.
Yeah.
So it's just the same sort of human thinking. So that's why repair is massively important. But I think to be repaired, something has to be designed with that intention as well. So it's like your body's designed to heal if something goes wrong. A lot of products aren't designed to heal if something goes wrong because it's actually in the interest of the person that sold it for it to break so they can sell you another one.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different mindset. So from day one, we design all our products in a way that can be repaired very easily to the point where the consumer themselves could repair it. So that's our sort of design philosophy into the future is when we create new products, we make it so all the parts that go into it can potentially be put together by someone in their house, which is pretty cool because it means the whole repair workshop thing isn't so relevant and it makes it easier to go around the world and to service the whole world and send parts out as opposed to having set up hundreds of workshops, which really isn't that sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, an example is, just show you this, I don't know, we haven't got a camera, but just the handle comes off that easily.
That's really cool.
So it's like a light bulb in the house, like your light bulb blows in your house, you don't throw your house out, you get a new light bulb. So dogs chew on handles a lot, right? So or even the handle strap might get worn out and that just pops off as well.
That's so cool.
And then the canopy will come off as well, so you can redress your umbrella. So it's just looking at the product like it's a whole lot of different products that come together, but the way they come together is really important. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, a lot of companies now design products to break, so they will get you to buy a new one. But obviously yours are meant to last for a really long time. Are you ever concerned about keeping up with making enough money when your products are supposedly lasting a lifetime maybe?
That's not a problem. I think it's kind of like a scarcity thinking when you think things have to break to sell more. But the reality is the markets are so huge. You're never going to run out of people to sell to. And it just seems like the more we sell products that last longer, the more people want to buy it because they want to buy for gifts and things like that. And because the movement now and people actually wanting better stuff, the market is it's crazy size. We'll keep going. It's it's just that convincing of people that they should be doing the right thing as opposed to buying the short-term sort of Temu type products that in the moment are cheap and the value seems all about the price, but reality over time, the value is better if you buy for the longer term.
So how do you convince people that your options are better even though they're a bit more expensive?
It's actually really quite difficult because people don't really listen that much these days because there's so many messages that's so busy out there. And the best way we find is actually when people talk about it to their friends, like there's a trusted word of mouth voice. And we found like for New Zealand market for our product, it grew really well because everyone wanted to talk about it. And I think because it's a New Zealand product, that helps as well. And it's all about the word of mouth and the trust side of things. So if people have that trust and there's an emotional connection, then you're in a lot better sort of footing for that sort of movement to happen. But yeah, if you're just selling on price, it's not really, doesn't work for us. Like the price should be the last thing in the discussion.
Yeah.
It's really about the value over time and you're getting a better experience.
Yeah. So blunt umbrellas are also very colourful and they look really nice together especially. Was that a priority when designing them? Because a lot of umbrellas I think look, you can tell the cheap ones are cheap by the design, but yours, the colour makes them look very high-end as well.
Yeah.
So what was your thought process with that?
Yes, it's really important to us because the aesthetic side of it, like if you think of all the senses when you experience a product, like your eyes are probably the first thing you see when you see a product. So it's got to look beautiful. So that's a big part of how we approach it. But when it comes to designing our canopies, it's really about understanding the consumer who we're designing for because everyone has different tastes. So in New Zealand as a whole, there's sort of a theme for what people like and there's certain patterns and things that we know quite well and what sell. And then if we go to Europe or to the UK, it's more conservative. So it's more about patterns as opposed to floral things. So we need to really understand each market when it comes to that. And same with colours and following seasons. So if we do a seasonal product, they'll sort of be lighter, darker for different seasons. So it's just really understanding the market on that side of it. And that's where the collaborations we do with other artists is really, really important as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you've collaborated with artists like Karen Walker and Dick Frizzell to create special umbrellas. So how do these collaborations help spread your message?
That's huge. Like partnering with people that I guess complement what you do is really, really powerful. Like from the early days, like I'm an engineer and we were just a bunch of guys trying to sell this better umbrella. So the fashion side of it was not really our skill set, but we knew it was really important. So to partner with someone like Karen Walker was just a dream really because that's totally her gig. And she loved what we did and there was a real respect. So like when you come together for a collaboration, it's a relationship you're building as much as anything. So there has to be like all the qualities like of human relationship, right? The trust and you have to respect each other for what you bring. So that was really, really key to start with. But the result is you're really introducing your product to a whole new audience. So by going with someone like Karen Walker, who's already got her fan base out there, by her going with us, she's sort of saying, yes, these guys are good. So all her fans will just kind of give us a chance. So that's the way we can kind of build. And if we get into like a new market where blunt isn't known that well, but we can get with a partner who already has a foothold in that market and has their fan base, and we partner with them in a really healthy way, then it's a really cool way to sort of just broaden your market.
Yeah. So I've heard you talk about conscious consumerism. Can you explain what this means to you?
Yeah, I think it's just about responsibility, about people making better choices in what they buy and not just thinking in the moment. So it's about really about that time factor. So understanding when you buy something, what it's going to look like into the future. So I think people buy a lot of things about the emotional experience in the moment and they just make poor choices. And a lot of that is defined by what the price is. So yeah, conscious consumerism is really about just standing back from what you're doing and being more aware and really looking at the quality side of it as opposed to the quantity. So your life's going to be a lot fuller if you own, I guess, less things that have better quality and have a lot more meaning to you than you have like this wardrobe just full of stuff that you bought at a cheap price, but you just want to give it to the op shop because you're sick of it really quickly. So it's really about understanding your own style and what resonates with you in terms of a product so that you can actually make better choices that will last. So that, for blunt, people buy our umbrellas and they come in and some of them have owned them for like 10, 15 years and their connection to the product is so much stronger than it was even like 10 years before that. And so the longer you have something that you love, the more you want to have it and the more you want to look after it. So it's just about getting that sort of thinking into the market. Yeah.
What do you think is the most important thing to do to change the world's mindset about consumerism and waste?
I think it's really difficult because the problem is it's at the consumer end, but it's also at the end of supply where all the stuff comes from. And I think there's only so much we can do as consumers to change the world. And the whole systems need to sort of be, fixed from within as well. So there needs to be a movement from both sides. And that's what we're trying to do in the umbrella industry, is really understand that throwaway mentality and try and change the mindset from thinking we have to sell lots and lots at a cheap price, that we can actually make something a lot better that lasts longer and sell it for more price. And people will have a better experience over time and like us more. And we'll have more valued customers. And they'll come back to us and want to buy as opposed to go to someone else who's cheaper. So yeah, I think that's really important. But at the consumer end, the more people buy of quality, the more things they're buying of quality, then the more producers there'll be of quality, and there'll be a movement that goes the right way. But it's such a big, big job, because at the moment there's it's almost like this big ship going in one direction. And everyone's looking for simple solutions to sort of go the other way. But the reality is that ship needs to turn a big corner. So we've got to do a lot of work. And I think it needs to happen on lots of different fronts. Yeah, otherwise we'll just keep getting cheap things out of factories that don't care. Yeah, the idea that you can buy something on the other side of the world and have it delivered within a few days on an aeroplane it's just not sustainable. And the whole Temu movement, it's growing like 15% a year. So we're going in the wrong direction. So yeah, a lot of work needs to be done.
So where do you actually manufacture blunt umbrellas, and do you do anything within that process to be more sustainable?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so we make our umbrellas in a place called Xiamen in China. And we found this factory because really they were the best at what they do. And it was set up by Germans back in the 90s. So it's got really good equipment. And it's owned by a Taiwanese man who we know really well. So yeah, within that factory, it took a while for them to understand our philosophy about trying to create a better, more expensive product that would last longer. And a big part of that is the quality and how they make it. So within that factory, we have a quality control system. So every umbrella gets checked before it leaves the factory. And the person that does that actually has a relationship with the factory, so that any sort of issues that come up, we can actually go back into the factory and correct that issue so it doesn't happen again. So it's that sort of constant improvement within the environment. And I think in the time we've been with the factory, their mindset has changed quite a lot in terms of what we can actually do, if we do it a better way. And I think we're probably the only brand that consistently stays with that factory, because within the industry, most people just jump around factories trying to get the best price, whereas we just want to commit to the one factory and get the best quality. And that is a long-term relationship to build all these layers of inputs up to a higher level. So even that, I think, again, the relationship thing, like our collabs, it's like the stronger the relationship, the better result will be. So it's all about humans doing the right thing together.
Yeah. So you recently became B Corp. What did you have to change in your business to get certified? Was there anything?
Not a lot, because we were doing the right things anyway. But what we did have to do was prove it, because within the B Corp system, there's a lot of paperwork, so a lot of policies and a lot of admin. So that was the main piece of work. But a big part of it was actually proving that our umbrellas do last longer, and by making a better product that's repairable, how much better it is for the environment over a typical product that just gets thrown away. So we did a life cycle analysis with a group that proved that really well. So it just goes to show over time, if you have one blunt umbrella and it has to be repaired a few times, just the lower level of carbon input versus you rebuy over that time. So doing that piece of work, not just for B Corp, but just in general, was really, really interesting for us to show that, we are doing the right thing. Yeah, and just understanding exactly what our carbon footprint is for each umbrella that we put out there. So at the manufacturing end, we can make more effort to reduce that as well. And also the logistics of moving product around the world, like just being on ships and how we ship things and getting more product into a container, and the way we do our packaging, all of that. It's like it's just a never-ending task to get better. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have any advice for someone who has an idea like you had that kind of hasn't been done before and they're trying to figure it out? Would you have any advice for them?
I think just talk to a lot of people. Like today, it's really easy to reach out, and people are so connected more than ever. Like back in the day when I started Blunt, the internet was there, but it wasn't like it is today. So to actually discover information, you're kind of having to read books and things. But today, it's very easy to connect. Like we get people at Blunt coming to us all the time, wanting advice and just having a conversation about what they're doing. And I think you could save years in your life of just talking to people that have been on that journey. Yeah, we welcome people to come and talk to us about their little ideas and what it could be like. But the big thing I think that worked for me was just really working on your vision of what your success could look like from the start, so you really know what you're heading towards. Because I think a lot of people start something and it's based on an idea, but it kind of doesn't have its essence really defined well, so they don't really know where they're heading and they're kind of changing direction all the time. So I think that's a big one.
What are your plans for the future of Blunt? Do you have any extra products in mind? Or, I mean, you mentioned that at-home repair.
Yeah. So the big thing for us is really to focus on umbrellas and make them better, in terms of repair, which is huge. But also just our range, like we're working on a bigger umbrella for the beach for later this year, which is really exciting. And we also know the smaller we can make our umbrellas, the more we'll sell as well, which is a real design challenge because the smaller they go, the harder it is to make them stronger and do all the things that Blunt does. So we're extending our range and again, just making them more repairable so that they can go out to the world and have a longer life. So that's the vision. And really, we just want to be the best umbrella brand in the world. I think that's our big thing. And the big challenge with that is we do sit in New Zealand at the bottom of the world, so we're very isolated from the bigger markets on the other side of the planet. So really working out better systems so we can understand those markets better. And I guess live like we're in those markets, but not living in the markets, if that makes sense, because every market is so different and we need to do a lot of work to understand those markets.
How did you get into markets all around the world? I mean, you're popular everywhere now. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, so there's steps. Like you need partners basically in the markets that can help you, and there's lots of different ways that can work. So to begin with, we had distributors, so people that would buy product from us and then sell within the market. But selling in the market and actually building your brand and your popularity in the market is a different thing. So what we have now is we have key markets. So the key markets, we have Australia, New Zealand, and the UK and the USA. And within those markets, we have our own setup. So we have our own business and our own people and our own warehouse and everything like that. And by doing that, we just have a lot more control over what's going on so that we can actually manage the market a lot tighter and give better service, and the repair can work a lot better, and we can just understand consumers better. So that's where we're at now. But we know we are, in the scheme of things, very small. So we have to focus our limited resource in a smart way to make this thing work and grow as it should.
Yeah. What legacy do you want to leave for future generations?
For me, it's really through the product. Like the thing that attracted me to umbrellas back when I was in London was I just looked at these products and I was kind of comparing them to like cell phones. They were just coming out at the time and just looking at how quickly they got replaced. Each design, it was like 6 months later, this product would be different. And I was thinking, umbrellas aren't like that. They've been the same for like over 100 years. And I thought, wow, if I could actually reimagine and do a genuine upgrade on this product, it would be relevant for a really long time. And I thought that would be an amazing legacy because it's like the shape of it is so distinctive. And for me, that's a huge legacy, right? It's like a little bit of me out there in the world for like decades to come. And I think that's quite special. It's almost like writing a book or, it's something that can live on beyond you.
Yeah.
So I love that idea. And there's not many products that are like that have such a slow, I guess, evolution. Yeah, because it's really hard, basically. And that's what I loved about it. I thought it's a really difficult puzzle, but if I could do it, it would be like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I mean, it's so iconic now. And it's so, Yeah,
I think that's a good word. I think if you can do something that's iconic, then you've done a good job.
Well, Greig has certainly done a good job. Blunt umbrellas' shaping colours are known all over the planet, with around 2 million umbrellas existing today. Since being founded, the revolutionary design of Blunt's umbrellas has taken the world by storm, continuing to increase in popularity. It seems that Greig Brebner has succeeded in his mission to make a product good at everything. The design is flawless, durable and repairable, a feature very important for changing the world's throwaway mentality. Greig believes in quality above quantity, which is shown by the thousands of umbrellas Blunt repairs each year. What I think is truly special is the connection that Blunt creates through innovation and joy. If you want to find out more about Blunt umbrellas, go to bluntumbrellas.com. Thank you so much for listening. That was Greig Brebner from Blunt Umbrellas on Sustainably Ever After. A special thanks to sponsors of this podcast, the Milford Foundation, working to create a sustainable New Zealand for future generations. Learn more at milfordfoundation.co.nz. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and stay tuned to nzbusiness.co.nz for more details on upcoming episodes and bonus podcast material. Let's make our world more sustainable, one story at a time. See you soon!